EisnerAmper Engaging Alternatives podcast series. I'm your host, Elana Margulies-Snyderman, and with me today are John Roberts and Mickal Adler, co-managing partners of Boot64 Ventures, a New Orleans-based venture capital firm that invests in Louisiana entrepreneurs. Today, John and Mickal will share their outlook for VC investing in Louisiana entrepreneurs, including the greatest opportunities, challenges, and more. Before we dive into the conversation with John and Mickal, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to EisnerAmper wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also find us on YouTube at EisnerAmper. Hi, John and Mickal. Thank you so much for being with me today.
Hey, it's great to be here.
Thanks so much for having us. It's a joy to be here.
Absolutely. So to kick off the conversation, I'd love to hear from both of you, your career trajectory and how you both got to where you are today at Boot64.
Thanks again. Again, my name's Mickal Adler, and so I'm one of the co-managing partners of the firm with my lifelong friend, John Roberts. My career up to now has been varied. I practiced law. I started practicing law over 30 years ago. Practicing law led me to becoming a business operator. And about 20 years ago, I stopped practicing full-time and I went into business. I actually started my first company when I was in law school. So I was always entrepreneurial minded as much as being a practicing advisor to businesses. And then after about 15 years of running my own companies, I had an exit, and then John and I started angel investing. And as it happens, angel investing is like the gateway drug to venture capital. We joined an angel investing network here in New Orleans. And then an opportunity arose a couple of years later where this SSBCI program was investing money in venture capital firms. And so we actually founded our firm to take advantage of this opportunity. And we've been on quite a wild ride ever since.
John Roberts. I've been an entrepreneur my entire life. I built a chain of convenience stores and gas stations across Southeast Louisiana, and actually exited that same year in 2018 that Mickal had sold his company. Went through the angel investing route and got involved with a couple of startups and really got more exposure than I had ever had into the startup ecosystem in New Orleans, in the Gulf South region, and beyond, as angel investments took us across the country. Mickal and I saw the opportunity to participate in the SSBCI fund. We also happened to find out about VC Lab at that same time. And the combination of those things led us to launch a fund quickly and successfully close a $10 million fund in about 10 months of fundraising.
Thank you both for sharing your journey to how you got to where you are today. So that segues into the follow-up question I have for you. Given your focus on VC investing and Louisiana entrepreneurs, I would love to hear your high-level outlook for the space.
Sure. I can take that one. So the SSBCI program in Louisiana, the seed capital program, requires some type of economic impact with 90% of the money, but that's as simple as just a job or a number of jobs. A startup doesn't have to be headquartered here necessarily, but just have economic impact in the state. And so through that thesis, we've been able to identify many hundreds of opportunities and have successfully completed now 35 pre-seed stage and seed stage startup investments ranging from 100,000 to 500,000 are check sizes. And so that's an exciting portfolio going for us. We have about 9 to 12 more investments to make from this fund, depending on check sizes. But the deal flow has been excellent. There's been, there's always been a great entrepreneurial spirit in Louisiana and the Gulf South. There's just been a lack of money on the funding side. And so because of the 9 funds that are now active in Louisiana through the SSBCI program, the money is starting to flow as well. And so there's a lot of opportunities for these founders to come out of the woodworks with their ideas that they've been sitting on, or the ones that have already launched, being able to stay here because there's early stage funding available right here.
And more specifically in your sphere, what are some of the greatest opportunities you see and why?
So I'll jump in here. I hope you're not tired of the cliche now, AI, right? Like it's what everybody's talking about in every conversation with regard to startups and investing. That's the case because it's true. So AI is not only in and of itself a transformative technology, which in and of itself is creating more wealth than humanity has created in all of its history, but it's simultaneously empowering literally every other technology in its wake. So whether that's energy technology, biotechnology, B2B SaaS, B2C software, consumer products, the whole creative market, like literally every business is being impacted by this transformative new technology. So, what are the greatest opportunities? It's hard to say that there's any one greatest opportunity. You can find opportunities under every stone that you turn over these days. There are still, believe it or not, lots of industries that still are using carbon copies and paper and pen for lots of things, whether that's trucking or grocery stores. Everybody still has problems that need to be solved that software and technology is working to solve. But at the same time, you're going to have biotechnology that's massively accelerated in the health arena. You have energy that's a constant state of motion. Again, AI is solving these technologies. So, you ask a simple yet very difficult question to answer, which is, what is the one thing which is the greatest opportunity? And, I can't say that there is any one thing. We're fortunate to be an industry agnostic fund. We invest in a little bit in everything. And it's been a blast doing it because everything is just so exciting right now when you look at what these creative founders are creating and how they envision their technologies in parallel with AI to be changing the world.
On the other hand, what are some of the greatest challenges you face in your space and why?
Well, probably the number one challenge that we faced as pre-seed focused investors in a relatively new market area is founder preparedness for investment. So we have a lot of heavy lifting to do when we ask a founder that we like and their startup idea seems interesting, and we ask for their data room and they say, "What's that?" So we know we have a ways to go. And that happens, a little more often than you might think. And even those who are familiar with what a data room is, what really needs to be in that to be prepared for investors to go through and to pull the trigger. So we end up oftentimes in a case where we might be ready and other investors might be ready to make an investment as an initial reaction, but not having a data room set up is a problem that, we see all the time.
Michael and John, we've covered a lot of ground today and wanted to see if you have any final thoughts you would like to share with us.
Yeah, I mentioned AI, but the thing I didn't mention is, John talked about we're Louisiana impact focused. And my final thought that we haven't talked about is that this is not just happening in Silicon Valley. It's not just happening in the traditional VC markets. About 5 years ago, Steve Case wrote a book called The Rise of the Rest, where he covered all the venture capital markets throughout the country and talked about how there's lots of great things emerging from markets other than those traditional venture capital markets. And, Louisiana is a place where we export our culture, our creativity, everything, Tabasco, Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, Cane's. There's all kinds of things that have emerged from Louisiana. We have, lots of heavy industry here. We've got a lot of experience in business here. And, sort of my final thought is, this is happening here. We've had incredible deal flow. We've looked at thousands of companies in order to make 35 investments, which you probably wouldn't have thought that was the case. And Steve Case wrote this book before the rise of AI. So it was happening here before the AI started energizing every sector at the same time. So my final thought is that, markets outside of New Orleans or outside of Silicon Valley and places like New Orleans are very interesting markets. If you really want to make sure as an investor you're catching the next big thing, you can't just look in one place anymore. You've really got to look all over.
Well, John and Michael, I wanted to thank you both so much for sharing your perspective with our listeners.
Thank you so much for having us. Yeah, great to be here.
And thank you for listening to the EisnerAmper podcast series. Visit EisnerAmper.com for more information on this and a host of other topics. And join us for our next EisnerAmper podcast when we get down to business.